This is TWiT.
So growing up in Texas, it was not uncommon for me to bring a sweatshirt to the mall to keep me warm from the ungodly amount of air conditioning that they used. But we have gotten smarter since then. You wrote a piece, Micah, this week on smart air conditioners. Let's start with the Frigidaire window unit. What did you think of that one?
Ooh, that one is very pretty. In fact, it was like the prettiest one that I came across. It's interesting. There's a difference, of course, between like smart air conditioners themselves and then like in my case, I have central air and heating and cooling and all that stuff. So I just use a smart thermostat. But they actually make window units that have smarts built in. And for the most part, whenever some company puts the word smart before something, it just means that it connects to the internet somehow or can connect directly to a device through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
So if someone already has central air, then what do you recommend for them?
Yeah, this would not be, if you already have central air and you control everything via a thermostat in your house and you're wanting to smarten things up, I personally like the Ecobee. That device is really neat because of the fact that it's HomeKit enabled, which for me is an important thing because I use Apple's ecosystem personally, but it also works with all of the different smart assistants. And the best thing about it is it has room sensors. And so what they do is they work with the thermostat to determine occupancy, to determine temperature, and they use all of that information to kind of better understand the temperature inside of your house and where you might be. So, you know, if the bedroom is 75 degrees and wherever the thermostat is, it's 72 degrees, it will actually take those temperatures and average them and use that to kind of warm or cool the house depending on what you want. And so that makes a better experience because sometimes I can remember, especially when I was younger, and like I'd be upstairs in my bedroom in my childhood home and it's like hot as can be up there, but the bottom floor, of course, was nice and cool. So yeah, in that case, that's what you're going to want. But if you have a window unit, I personally think that if you're going to have to buy a full-on window unit, the Frigidaire is so good looking. Like it's one of the most futuristic ones that we've come across. It's rated really well, and other sites also recommend it. It's a well-reviewed window unit that provides the smarts. It's modern. It looks nice, and I think that it's not too pricey, which is good as well.
And so what if you already have a window unit and you say that you can just plug it into a smart plug? Do you have a smart plug that you recommend?
Well, okay, there are two options here. If you have a window unit or maybe you don't even need AC. Some of you live in really nice places where occasionally you just need a fan. How nice. Then you can just use a smart plug. You plug that in the wall, you plug whatever device you have into it, and then you can set up, scheduling or whatever you want to do there, and it just turns on. So if you've got a manually controlled window unit, or again, something like a fan or what have you, you plug that in, it's already set to the settings that you want, it automatically turns on and you're good to go. It's running, it's happening. Now, if instead you have something that you want to be able to control it a little bit more deeply, anything that runs with a remote can use an AC smart controller. So what these do is basically kind of spoof the signal of your remote, and then you can, no matter where you are, if you're in the home, if you're out of the home, you basically hit the buttons in the app, and it sends that information over the internet to that controller. The controller says, okay, I know what I need to do, and then sends the remote signal from itself to your AC unit or your heating unit. So there are plenty of options out there for heating and cooling, depending on how your setup is at home.
So yeah, so with the smart plugs, do all of them work not just on your home Wi-Fi? Like if I, like I live in a place where I don't really need air conditioning, but it does get hot sometimes. So if I have a fan plugged into a smart plug and, it's 100 degrees right now and I want to cool off my home starting now on my way home from work, I can just do that from all the way over here?
Well, it depends. So there are multiple factors here. Some smart plugs are going to be Bluetooth enabled, and with those, depending on your setup, depending on whether you've got a hub, depending on a whole host of factors, you might be able to control it out of the home. So I'm going to give you an example of how you can control it out of the home. You're going to want to find a plug like the one from Elgato Eve. They make, I think it's called the Eve Energy, and it is Bluetooth. But because it's HomeKit enabled, your Apple TV or an iPad that's left at home can serve as the hub that can communicate directly with that device. So even while you're away, you could say, hey, as I approach my home, once I reach inside of this bubble or as I leave work, then go ahead and tell my Apple TV or my iPad to tell the Elgato Energy, or the Eve Energy rather, to turn on. And that'll turn on, it'll turn on the device. You can also set up for scheduling. If you've got multiple sensors in your home, if you've got maybe a temperature sensor of some sort, you could just say, hey, when the temperature drops, or rather rises above this temperature, then go ahead and turn on that fan for me or turn on that AC for me. If you got a Wi-Fi one, chances are it's going to work out of the home just within its own app. So the iDevices plug is an example of one that will work without needing anything else. You plug that in, you get it connected to Wi-Fi, you turn on a setting inside of the iDevices app, and no matter where you are, you can go ahead and pop in and make those controls. And whether you want to set it up with location automation or you just want to be able to turn it off while you're away or turn it on while you're away, you can do that.
You have a few other products that you reviewed as well. I don't want to give it all away, so check out Micah's article at iMore. And I'm going to ask you a question that I bet you get a lot, and so I think you probably have a good answer. Swarmed in the chat room said, when you said that smart means it's just connected to your phone or whatever, he said smart means it quote records your daily life and sells it. So what is your answer to that when people just say like all these devices are just selling my information, and is it really worth it?
I mean, there's always going to be some sort of give and take depending on what devices you're getting. Okay, there certainly are devices that are collecting your information and using that, anonymous or otherwise, to sell to third parties. Now, if Georgia Dow were here, she would definitely be like saying, don't put any of this stuff in your home, never get on Facebook, never do this, because she's, very, very, very gung-ho about personal privacy. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's very important to understand what you're giving up and what you're getting in return when it comes to anything, not just smart home technology, but an app that you use or a service that you use. You are going to be giving something up, whether it be money or it be your personal data. And so in the case of HomeKit-enabled devices, this is one of the kind of pro tips, I guess, that you can go with here. Depending on the type of device, something like the ones that are from Elgato, because they're connected to Bluetooth and because they're HomeKit enabled, you can actually never download the Elgato Eve app and connect it with the Elgato Eve app and therefore be able to access it through that and through their third-party service. You can actually plug that thing in, connect it to HomeKit, and run it completely through that so that your data is Apple and the device. And you may have a better understanding of how those two communicate and where your data is going, because it's not being able to connect to anything else and communicate that way. Now, I obviously cannot speak for Wi-Fi connected devices, and that's where you really got to sit down in your big overstuffed, leather chair, you get out the bubble pipe, you get out a cup of chamomile tea, and you read through the terms and conditions and all the agreements if you want to know exactly how your data is being used, if it's being sold, et cetera, et cetera.
I love the idea of someone reading terms of service with a bubble pipe. I hope that
it's the only way.
It really is
Otherwise
the only
you
way.
get sad.
It is the only way.